Secretary Cohen, the details are scant at the moment, but can you give us your early read on this agreement reached in Vienna?
Well, as you point out, the details and the devil are linked in this particular agreement, and we'll have to see exactly what the wording of the document is. Negotiators tend to engage in what they call diplomatic ambiguity so that each party to the negotiation can claim victory. So I think getting the words and all of the words out and seeing what is clear, what is transparent, what remains either secret or not publicly disclosed will be important. Second thing is the president's got to persuade the Congress and the American people that the provisions for enforcement of the deal are really serious and will accomplish the effort. And then finally, Congress is going to have 60 days to review this, but here's what I suspect will take place. I can't, guarantee it, but it looks to me like Republicans against it, saying, here's the president who lost Iraq, losing Afghanistan, didn't get involved to help the Syrian rebels, didn't help in Ukraine, and now is doing a deal with Iran to the discouragement and the frustration of our allies in the region, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Israel. So that's, I think the Republican line will be Democrats are very strong, historically very strong supporters of Israel. So it's going to be a hard sell for the president, but I think it's going to be equally hard for the Congress to reject it. Because if it's rejected by the Congress, and all we can do at that point is keep our sanctions in place while the other countries run to lift those sanctions, it'll be the United States sanctioning itself while our friends are trying to enter the marketplace and build it to their great economic benefit. So this is going to be a tough one for the Congress to ultimately prevail on, even though the majority will be strongly opposed to it.
Mr. Secretary, it sounds like what you're saying is ever since we started these talks, we've sort of locked ourselves in. There was then no way of backing out. And it sounds like we're pursuing a strategy of appeasement because the alternative is worse, unthinkable even.
I think once we decided that Iran would be allowed to go forward with an enrichment program on its own soil, then I think we were just negotiating from behind the curve at that particular point. You may remember that Russia at one point early in the game said we will do the enrichment of the uranium on Russian soil, and then we'll transfer it to you so you can have enriched uranium to the right level for commercial purposes. And Iran said no, and we didn't really come out strong enough, I don't think, at that time. And so once we said, no, you have a right to enrich, well, then the question is, how much do you need? What percentage do you need? And, of course, they went up to 20 or 25%, which is closer to for purposes of making a nuclear weapon as opposed to, building a pharmaceutical plant. So I think we got behind the curve on that one and conceded too much up front. And as a result of that, we've been negotiating, I don't think, from a position of strength, but one from weakness. But now that you have a deal, you've got 6 countries on the line saying we favor this. We'll see what the other countries say about it in terms of their own parliaments. But my suspicion is that the 6 countries who signed on to this are going to insist that it go forward. And it puts the United States, I think, in a position, at least the Congress, the president is already on board on this. It puts the Congress in a more difficult position to either vote against it or have sufficient votes to override a veto, which I think is going to be questionable.
Secretary Cohen, for those who care about the impact that this deal will have on what goes on inside Iran, many have been saying better to have no deal than to have a bad deal. How will you know that it's a good deal, that it will achieve what's needed?
No deal is not an ideal place to be. Having no deal means that the Iranians would continue to do what they've been doing for the past 15 years or more, and that is building a covert capability that was finally discovered, but a covert capability to lead them to build a nuclear weapons capability. So no deal means that, okay, it depends on who was seen as rejecting the deal. I talked about optics in the past. If it appeared that it was the United States or the United States Congress that was blocking this, then other countries would say, look, we think Iran is trying to make a good deal here, and we're going to join with them and lift our sanctions. So if we had simply said no deal, and we were seen as being at fault in not getting a deal, then I think that would have been the worst of all worlds, because we would have been the losing end. If, however, the Iranians were so intransigent on key issues that the other countries felt were vital to having an enforceable agreement that would reduce their capacity to move forward to a nuclear weapon, then I think the sanctions would have stayed in place. They would have been intensified, and Iran would have continued to suffer economic detriment. So no deal would not have been a great outcome here if it was at the fault of the U.S. and not at the fault of the Iranians. So I think at this particular point, the optics are 6 countries now believe this is a good deal, at least at the presidential and Secretary of State level. Whether the other countries agree to support this remains to be seen. Whether the Congress, which is unlikely to support this in terms of having a two-thirds overwhelmingly negative vote, I think you're going to see this is a deal we've got, unless there are major holes that we can point to saying this is not verifiable. They're not removing this type of equipment. They're not putting it in safe storage. They're going to be able to reconstitute it within a very short period of time. Unless you can show that, then I think the deal is going to remain in force, and we'll have to hope that 10 years from now or 15 years from now, when the restrictions run out, that Iran would have become so embedded into the international system as a welcome partner that they'll forego trying to build a nuclear weapon. I remain skeptical about that, but that is the hope at this point.
Secretary Cohen, we thank you very much. Critical perspective from the former Secretary of Defense William Cohen, now chairman of the Cohen Group.